Thank you guys for having me today. I wanted to give some thought to what I was going to speak about today. I usually talk mostly about what it is that Token does and what it is we're trying to accomplish. But I thought that during a time like this, it would be really relevant to try to connect what we're working on to also what we're all experiencing and what we're all going through. And so I wanted to talk a bit about the product and how, we've obviously we build a security product, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And there's some really, I think poignant lessons I've learned and things I've thought through over the past 6.5 years. And there was one theme that really connected to me throughout the way in which I'm trying to navigate this pandemic and all of the impacts of that pandemic on my team and my company and myself. So my background is not actually in engineering or product. I have a bachelor's degree in fine arts, an MBA, and a PhD in consumer behavior. When we started Token, I knew what problem we were trying to solve. And the problem is that authentication is broken. All of the ways that we prove who we are to digital systems are very vulnerable to hackers and even our own potential loss. And I knew how we would go about solving that problem. And while my engineering team was really fascinated with the mechanics of distributed systems and biometric algorithms, I was really interested in why we needed to solve this problem and how it impacted the psychology of people. And in 2018, I gave a TED Talk in Vancouver, and it was centered around a principle that I believe really deeply, and it's around trust. Humans are really special. Obviously, we are very unique in the ways in which, we're different from animals. But what makes us truly stand apart is that we're able to share ideas and we're able to collaborate in large numbers. And this really hinges on our ability to trust one another. So when the only people that we interacted with were our neighbors in small villages, we weren't going very far. We weren't engaging in commerce with anyone. Trust was built simply by being able to recognize each other. This was even before the times, if you think about physical identification cards. This really started to evolve even in the Roman times. People were using signet rings to sign documents and prove who they were to other people in towns nearby. By the time we started collaborating outside of our small villages, we started to invent identity systems to enable trust between parties who didn't know each other. And, I mentioned, the passport system or a physical ID system. We've had those for hundreds of years. And when they became digital was when they started to scale beyond what they architecturally could stand. So if you think just about a wallet or even your home, if a thief wants to rob you and he finds you on the street and he asks you for your wallet and he steals your wallet, he'd have to go to a lot of people and steal a lot of wallets and physically take them from people to really have any significant impact. Or if someone wanted to steal something from your home, they'd have to break into your home, steal whatever they wanted, but they're not gonna get very much. They're going to get the possessions and the things of one person. And so in that way, robbery, it's not very scalable. You may be able to rob a whole block, but there's only so much time, and you would have to, one by one break into all of those homes. If you look at digital systems, you can hack into one system as a treasure trove of so many different credentials and valuable pieces of information, whether they're credentials for login or credentials for payment or personal identifying information that then can be sold in the dark web. These are all things that live in databases, if you will, and they're vulnerable to theft. So think of it like a treasure trove. If I'm a thief, what am I going to, if I have any technical abilities, I'm probably going to hack into a digital system and steal a ton of payment cards rather than rob somebody on the street and get one payment card. And this is the way in which the internet was built really never allowed for humans to connect directly to one another. Computers could identify themselves to each other on a network, but humans, we had to identify ourselves to the computer so that the computer could then go and establish itself on the network to other computers. And the internet has enabled some incredible things. It's enabled us to coalesce into networks of scale, unlike any ever before, and that in itself is beautiful. It greatly amplifies all the ways that we can interact with other people and who we can collaborate with. So it's worth trying to solve this problem. But the ways in which we're identifying ourselves to those people just aren't working anymore. The statistic in 2017 was that 16.7 million people had their identity defrauded. So that's a pretty big number. And it's pretty crucial we solve the problem, because trust and being able to trust the other people on this global network, trust is what promotes the sharing of ideas, and it's what allows us to collaborate with each other. And so when I think about what is the most important why of what token is trying to accomplish, it's that we want to restore trust. We want to restore trust in digital systems. And the way that we do that, our solution is through a biometrically secured ring we call token, and it lets you represent your identity to the world in a trusted way. So if you imagine all the different ways that you have right now to prove who you are, so whether those are digital keys, their payment cards, their passwords, their access badges, all of these things, even if they're physical, they're communicating in digital systems. So imagine all of those identity artifacts are flowing like a genie into a single ring that you wear on your finger. That is what token is. It is all of your IDs aggregated into one single piece of, if you'd like to consider it, jewelry. And you can naturally go about the world by placing your hand over a reader or knocking your hand on your desk to replace your password into an account. We built token to feel natural and also give you a single way to prove who you are. And that in itself, without going into all the technical details, that's what enables you to securely protect your identity. And in that way, we're able to kind of start rebuilding trust in the places in the networks that we're using those credentials. So when you put the ring on, it verifies your fingerprint and it just unlocks. Once it's on, you tap your hand and you can move about through doors, and like I mentioned, payment terminals, and it can only be used by you. It is paired to your fingerprint. You can't program multiple people to the same device. And so the solution that we have to the problem that I mentioned is what we've built today. And we've actually just launched it and started shipping in the last month. And I'll kind of get into a little bit more about that because if I had to, I couldn't have picked a worse time to start shipping product than right now. So I'll pause quickly before I kind of dive into the rest of this. Does anyone have any questions? Cool. I'll keep going. So trust really was the element for me that was critical in building token. And I don't know about you guys, but getting through this pandemic, and trying to not just build a great product, but build a strong and scalable company has been it, tough. Doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. It's been the education of a lifetime, and it has given me incredible opportunities to start reflecting on, what is it that I need to establish in myself and in my team, so that we can get through things like this. Because I think in a lot of ways we've all had it relatively easy. Of course, there's always challenging problems, but never, at least in my career, my even lifetime, have I experienced something that's kind of level set everyone in around the globe, and put us all into kind of a shared sense of chaos. So I've really started to lean on, how do I build trust into all of the elements across my company, so that we can get through this particular event. And then for myself personally, as I build Token and companies, beyond Token, and go through other things in my life, how can I build systems for myself, thought processes that allow me to trust in myself and my own abilities. So I've kind of broken it into 3 different areas. So in a sense, I very much believe that leading during a crisis, if you can trust the people around you and you can trust in your own abilities to get through the toughest of times, you'll be able to lead with more authenticity. And if you're not in a leadership position, you'll have the clarity that it takes to make objective decisions and to lead as a peer and to be there to support your peers. So first and foremost is trust in your teammates. So I think it's important, if you've done a good job hiring, and hopefully you have, or your company has, that to assume positive intent amongst others. So assume positive intent in your teammates, in your partners. And again, if you've done a good job hiring and surrounding yourself with, strong vendors and strong partners, this should be easy. And if you haven't, I hope that this is you can use this time as your teacher, and you can learn how important this element is. But if we can trust in our teammates, then in the events and in the times that we need to be able to, have them support us, we can look to them without question. And, I very much believe that you, even as a CEO of Token, I pull wisdom and advice and thoughts from everyone across my entire company. And to be able to hear one another is really dependent on our ability to trust in those people and what they're saying. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything they say is right or true for you in this particular situation, but it's certainly perspective. And if you know that perspective is coming from a place of good, then if you can count those people as is your strong foundation. So I think that's kind of first and foremost. And the second is trusting in yourself. I think it's incredibly challenging to go through something tough like COVID, or anything surrounding COVID, the economic downturn, everything that's going on for all of our businesses. It's tough to get through a time like this and not have moments of doubt. I think it's okay, and it's natural, and it's normal to have moments of doubt. And I think it allows ourselves to, reflect on the things that we have, and can count as talents and skills. but then also it gives us time to think about what don't we know. And trusting ourselves is dependent not just on knowing what we are good at and what we have the capabilities of doing, but also what we are not great at and what we need what we need the help with. And if you can trust in your own understanding of what you're terrible at, then you can trust that you'll endeavor only in things that you know how to get through on your own, and you'll call in for the support of your teammates to help you get through the rest. So I think those two elements are really important together. And I'll give you a bit of an anecdote, but back a few years ago, we made our first hire who came from a big corporate. We were still fairly young. We were only a couple of years old, and we hired this guy, and he was, he's very talented, and he was a leader in his field. He was an SVP at a major payment network, and we were so honored and lucky to have him interested in joining our team. And we have everyone as a company. We have kind of a communal sign-off process when we make big hires, and everyone met this person, and he was a yes all the way around. And I thought that he was the right hire, or at least I logically thought it was probably the right path for us. And I remember this moment where I'm sitting actually in my home with a few members of my leadership team, and everyone was participating in making a job offer. We were kind of just crafting the strategy for how we were going to approach him, and we all verbally had kind of all made the decision. And kind of at the last minute, I said, I don't know, my gut tells me this is not the right path. This is just, I can't articulate it right now, but I don't know, something doesn't feel right. And the looks on everyone's faces and the way that they reacted to me, I realized to heed my instincts and to be careful how I vocalize them, because everyone around the room looked at me and said, oh, okay, well then we shouldn't do it. And it confirmed for me that everyone was trusting that I trusted my instincts and my gut. And so things like that, and it's happened many more times since then, has just reinforced that I need to hone in and make sure I'm listening to what my gut's telling me, because I have other people around me who are trusting that I'm doing that. So that's kind of served me well recently. I just got a question. All right, sorry, this pop up here. I just got a question from someone in the group, but I will answer that in a minute. What does your ring look like? Okay. So I think that was a really important, learning experience for me. And then the last piece here is trusting in the process. And we've all heard, we need to look at failure as positive. There's no such thing as failure, and failure is good for you. I think failure has lessons. I don't necessarily think failure is great, and we should hope to fail. I will tell you, I think success is almost a prime indicator of future failure. I know in my lifetime where I've had success, for example, in my first company, where we've had success, it's not taught me as much, and so I've made mistakes in the kind of this startup, for example, that I could have learned early on. And it's good to know that you're not infallible. But in the process itself, and going through the building of a company, or changing careers, or going for a big promotion, or any big kind of moment in your career, I think it's important to trust in the process itself, whether that's the failure failures that you've made, knowing that they're there for a reason and trying to spend the time to reflect on those and pull out the lessons. If you can pull out lessons from those moments, I think you can make great strides and see them as the blocks that can teach you things later on. I spent a lot of time in the first couple of years really just freaking out every time something happened. And I'm not sure if I thought that was like sustainable or what, but you know, that was common for me, was to react to things, both good and bad. And in a lot of ways, I've lost that for both, you know, the upside and the downside, because I've just come to expect all of it. And I think it's important to just accept that the outcome is unknown and not what we should be in all of this for. And if you can kind of keep that in mind, then it's the day-to-day process within the day that you can find fulfillment and joy from, and trusting that this is all here to teach us for the future, and it's through those really tough times. If you can hang on to it, it's those tough times that end up making us great. I think, I'm not sure if you guys have read The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Can you give me a thumbs up if you have? Cool. I see some of you have. If you haven't, it's fantastic, especially during times like this, or you know, anything else you've gone through in your career. I'll read you a bit of a passage. I think it's just such an excellent, profound. It was actually a blog post. The struggle is when you wonder why you started a company in the first place. When people ask you why you don't quit and you don't know the answer. The struggle is when your employees think you're lying and you think you may be right. The struggle is when food starts to lose its taste. The struggle is when you don't believe you should be the CEO of your company anymore. The struggle is when you know that you are in over your head and you know that you cannot be replaced. When everyone thinks you're an idiot and nobody will fire you. The struggle is where self-doubt becomes self-hatred. The struggle is when you're having a conversation with someone and you can't hear a word they're saying because all you can hear is the struggle. It's when the pain won't stop. The struggle is unhappiness. It's when you go on vacation to feel better, but you feel worse. And you're surrounded by people, but you're feeling all alone. The struggle has no mercies. The struggle is the land of broken promises, crushed dreams. It's a cold sweat, and it's where your gut boils so much that you feel like you're going to spit blood. The struggle is not failure, but it causes failure, especially if you are weak. Always if you are weak. Most people are not strong enough. Every great entrepreneur, from Steve Jobs to Mark Zuckerberg, went through this struggle, and struggle they did. So you're not alone, but that does not mean that you will make it. You may not make it, and that's why it's the struggle. The struggle is where greatness comes from. And so I think it's a good way to sum up how I think about the general process, and it's where we get the opportunity to turn adversity into opportunity. So I will end there and ask if you guys have any questions aside from what the ring looks like, and I will show you that right now. While I'm pulling that up, does anyone have any questions? Oh, hold on. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Jonathan, I see all of your questions. Yes, it does work with Bluetooth and it works with NFC. I'll share my screen and I'll show you guys our video, and it'll give you a better sense. And I will say that if you're building a company and you need a video made, this video was made by a company in upstate New York, actually in Rochester, and it's been seen over 100 million times. And it's all because they just captured our vision and were able to turn it into an actual video. So their name's Optic Sky, and if you need a video, I highly suggest them because they definitely help put us on the map. Okay, screen share. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep. Yes, we do.
Cool. Okay, that does it. Wayne, I see your question. How long does the battery last? The battery lasts, for the people that have it right now, we're getting feedback that it lasts 2 days. We originally intended for it to last longer, but we ended up having to make some trade-offs so that we could get support more payment features. Does it work with Windows Authentication? Yes, it does. We're built on something called FIDO, and we built something called FIDO 2, which is now called WebAuthn, in working committee in the FIDO Alliance with Google and Microsoft and the NSA, and it's to replace string passwords with asymmetric crypto keys, which is what enables Token to do passwordless login. And we have this in an internal build right now, and getting it cleaned up for commercial launch in Q4 was prioritized for Q1 2021, but actually been reprioritized given the state of the world and some of our other features being way less relevant while we're all still kind of in quarantine. Can you embed your tech into a card? We technologically, yes, it could be, but one of the things that I believe in is focus. And so at Token, we are really focused on adhering to our principles, which is we're on a mission to make it easier to prove your identity and to do so in a way that feels natural. And we believe the ring form factor is the way to do that. How long does a complete charge take? It takes about 4-ish hours, depending on, when you say complete, we don't necessarily ever let it get completely depleted. We have, because it's so important, it's your payment card and like access badge, there's always a bit of a reserve there. But if you were to deplete it completely, then it would probably take overnight, like an iPhone. No, the human microchip implant. Yes. I don't know if everyone can see that. John said it reminds him of the human microchip implant the government was playing around with a few years ago. I've actually met a number of people, oddly enough, who have implanted that technology into their hands themselves. So strange.
Yeah, I think it was in their thumbs, and they were using it or testing it out at like a PX to purchase goods. This is, I think, 15 plus years ago.
Oh, okay. This was just recently. I was actually in Munich giving a talk this past year, and someone had embedded secure element and antenna and all that into their wrist.
Interesting.
Yeah, fascinating. It's a little. It was bold for sure. Any questions? Waterproof, water resistant. Water to actually say waterproof would mean that you could go diving with it, and you definitely cannot. Are we pre-release? When do we plan to launch? We are not pre-release. We are in slow release. We should have been in regular release by now, but COVID has done a number to our supply chain in 2020. So we are very grateful that we've been able to get some units out the door, but we have not nearly worked through our backlog of orders yet. Is our primary customer personal business? Our primary customer right now is personal, is for people. The reason is that I believe if you could build the relationship with the endpoints, you have the ability to learn the most, because you get to watch their behavior, you get the direct feedback. It's unfiltered, it's uncensored. And having those relationships is what helps us build the network itself. And in that network, once we've built it to be stronger than it is today, will we then use that network to sell into businesses? We have a number of big partnerships that kind of more priming to do that. Like, for example, HID is the largest access control provider in the world, and right now we partner with them, so you could use token as your access badge, and we supply their customers with token, but we sell to the end customer. They eventually, we will take advantage of the network we've built and sell directly to HID to distribute to either their own company or to their customers. Can this be used for 2FA like YubiKey? Yes, I mean, it's similar to YubiKey in that it's a hardware security key, and the ring in itself is 2FA. So the ring has a fingerprint scanner on it. So it's both who you are, biometric scan, and what you have, which is the ring itself. So yes, inherently it is 2FA, and you can use it in applications. Like I said, at end of Q4, you'll be able to use it in applications that require 2FA. For example, some like accounts online. How is your tech differentiated from competition? So I look at this in a few different ways. So the best way to look at the market right now is that there are people that are working on better way to make payments, better way to do access control, better way to do passwords. And, that's great. And those are all really important problems. The way Token looks at it is that these are all one problem, and that's authentication is broken. Those are all methods of authenticating yourself into a system. And we don't believe in trying to solve for one of those things independently, because we believe, again, that they're all the same problem. So how does that actually differentiate us? We are very, very focused on giving you one place to hold all of your credentials, so that essentially you have one way to prove who you are. And that is what we're really focused on. And when people ask us, what about what if Fitbit starts doing payments? Will you start doing fitness features? And the answer is no. Again, we're really focused on only doing things that adhere to our mission, which is to make it easier to prove your identity. How do we compare to LastPass? We do not store passwords. We actually, if you think of passwords as a method, token / the protocol we use, which is WebAuthn, is just a completely different animal. WebAuthn is using asymmetric cryptography and key technology, and so it's just very different than passwords, kind of apples and oranges. And the goal here is to eliminate the password, and that's what the FIDO Alliance mission was. Pretty much now Apple has finally joined, so it's pretty much the internet is now participating in that movement, because it's an indicator of how big the problem actually is. Yes, you can use it to log into various website accounts. Like I said, this is part of the feature that we'll have launched at the end of the year, end of Q4. And the way it works is that it's already actually built into Chrome browser, Mozilla Firefox, a number of other big browsers. It's already built in, compatible, and it's a matter of getting the behavior traction, and that's been something that Google has been really focused on in the last, I'd say, 18 months. And so, for example, you can use it as your Google login, and wherever you can log in with Google, you can use this technology. Is it a hat tip to Tolkien? No, it's not. I wish it was. I wish it was that. Wish I was that witty, but the name actually came to me at a very random moment. We had thought about every name under the sun. We had gone through so many terrible, terrible names, and it's interesting because I was really, I thought, I loved the name Cord. If you just Wikipedia, you could see what Cord looks like. Not like chord, like a musical chord, but the technology. And ultimately, because we named it Token, and it's a ring, Token Ring, and for anyone that remembers, like the Ethernet competitor, tokenring.com is actually our website. And it's a network, so it ended up being some really it's very serendipitous. Future commercials, yeah, I can see us getting sued big time for wanting to roll them all. People say that all the time in like customer videos, and I'm like, shit, I don't think we can use these customer videos now. Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions? Happy to answer anything related to the product, or just generally about leadership during a crisis. Yep, correct. Think of it less like 2FA, more like passwordless login. If you just Google like WebAuthn or FIDO2, you'll get the specs on it, and you'll kind of learn more about what it actually looks like, what the experience looks like. How big is our team? our team right now is about 20, I believe. Unfortunately, we've had to let some people go. That was, one of the tough things during quarantine, is having to scale back. Luckily, we didn't have to do too many, but we'll be, I think, doing some hiring once we get through Q4. Have we had investment? Yep, we've raised about $10.5 million to date. If you buy today. So we actually we were taking orders until we realized that the supply chain was so impacted by COVID that it would take many months to be able to work through the backlog. So what we've decided to do was we are taking orders for one size right now. It's the size that we have remaining stock left. But if pretty much any of the more popular sizes, it would take way too many months for delivery. So we've just stopped taking orders until we can work through the backlog. I think that this actually relates back to one of one of the things we talked about, but trust is really important, and brand trust is an element of building a brand that's just critical. And we've kind of tried different things over the years, and I think it's important to, when you have clarity into what shipment schedules look like, to really think hard about, what the impact is of holding people for too long before delivering their product. So we're hopeful that we can get through those. We'll be back to taking orders right around Christmas time. But don't quote me on that, because what I've learned is I thought this would be over in like a month, but here we are, September, almost October. Yeah, Christmas time. That's our goal. Anyone else? Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is such an awkward. I've done a number of talks, and in the last 6-9 months, however long it's been now, on Zoom, and it's just I still haven't gotten used to it. It's just so awkward to give talks, and I feel like I'm just kind of talking at myself because I don't see anyone, and it's not dynamic. There's no feedback when you're giving the talk, and I like to turn video off because I hate to see myself just sitting in my screen there and watching myself give a talk. So those are, John, for the question. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll all turn our video on.
I run a bi-weekly tech talk format, and it definitely changed when we went remote. The lack of feedback is difficult for people to judge the audience.
Yeah, it's so tough, and I try to do my best there, but
It's huge. Pick up on body language, and it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone else have anything?
thank you for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. Happy to support the community, and I don't know if this was kept there in the bio or anything, but I live in New York City right now. Actually, staying up in Rochester. I grew up around Rochester, and I haven't lived in Rochester for about probably, man, it's been a long time, probably since 2008. And I lived in London for a while. I lived in San Francisco, and then I moved down to New York. And when I was starting Token, I was thinking, well, where should I start it? And I decided to start it in Rochester. And so I pre-COVID was commuting and in Rochester Monday through Friday and going back down to the city. I love upstate New York, and I think that the upstate New York community is it's such fertile ground for technology companies and startups, especially startups, because it's so communal. And I very much believe that people kind of take care of one another up here. And I've just had so much support in building Token, and we have the most incredible engineering team and greater team that I couldn't be more proud of the community. And being here through COVID has shown me, a lot more about what it's like to have a life up here. And so I'm really, excited and has spent a significant time thinking about moving up here permanently. So just wanted to share that and say, for anyone that's, building a company up here, kudos to you. It's important work beyond what it is that you're building. Just the nature of, creating exciting places for people to work who are coming out of our great colleges. It's important. I think that this is also just, it's good for our economy, and it's important to create jobs in those sectors up here. Cool. Well, if there's no more questions, I will.
Melanie, give me the opportunity to ask the last question, maybe as an outro one. I'm definitely curious on how you have felt during this process. You gave us a bunch of great information on the product and like how it's been building it. But how have you felt in this process in a small company, and definitely with the challenges of COVID?
Yeah. So it's a great question. And I will mirror it, answer back with honesty, and say it's been I think it's been an informative experience. And through it, I think at different moments I've felt really, really sad. To just, I volunteer in at a suicide hotline, and which is an interesting experience because I get to see kind of the raw impact of how some of this is really deeply impacting people. And so it deeply saddens me to just see the pain that people are going through, and the families of people that work with me, and knowing that they're going through some really tough things. I don't take that lightly, and I've had to really try very hard to kind of separate myself a little bit, because that can weigh me down quite a bit. Fairly empathetic person, so I'd say there are those moments for sure. And honestly, I think I've also felt really just very grateful. I spend a lot of time with my team. Now we spend a little bit, we're still remote. I don't know if that context is important, but we're still remote. And we spend a lot of time together, either like playing games on Zoom, or, now that the weather is, say the weather is nice, but now it was nice. We would go Mendon Ponds or different parks and just, you know, take walks and talk. I felt really grateful for the time to be with them. And I really felt excited about like getting through it, if that makes sense. Like I'm excited to get through this. Not like just looking forward to getting through it, but excited in the moments to like get to see myself get through it. I feel really strong, and I feel really proud of my team for being able to kind of get through to the point that they're at right now. And so it's been very tough, but also had some really awesome moments.